When Prince Harry touched down in London, the press wasted no time painting it as a fairy tale reunion. They plastered headlines about a warm father-son meeting, reconciliation, and forgiveness. But let's stop right there. If you actually believe Harry came back to the UK with his head bowed in shame, tail between his legs, and a heart full of regret, you've been sold a polished fantasy. Because the truth is far colder, far more strategic, and far more manipulative than anything the tabloids are spinning. This wasn't about healing. It wasn't about family. It was a carefully scripted, highly calculated performance, and every move Harry made was designed to generate one thing: headlines. He was in the UK for just 4 days. 4 days of perfectly curated appearances. 4 days of photo ops at charity stops. 4 days of orchestrated PR choreography. And then the grand finale, a so-called private meeting with King Charles at Clarence House. But here's the kicker. That meeting didn't even last half an hour. By most insider accounts, it was closer to 25 minutes. 25 minutes, no hugs, no deep heart-to-heart, and not even alone. Yet, somehow, the press spun it into a sweeping, emotional milestone. The lost son finally reconnecting with his father. Give me a break. That wasn't reconciliation. That was optics. That was PR theatre staged at the expense of a monarchy already hanging by a thread. And here's where the story gets darker. Because behind the smiling headlines and the staged photo ops, there's something far more cynical going on. Harry and Meghan's one remaining card, the last weapon in their arsenal, isn't their celebrity status, their corporate deals, or their popularity. All of that has been torched. The Netflix money, drying up, the Spotify contract, gone. The brand, fading fast. What's left? Their children. Archie and Lilibet, the very children they claim to be shielding from the spotlight, are now being dangled as bargaining chips. For all Meghan's speeches about privacy, isn't it interesting how the kids always get pulled into the conversation, right when the Sussex brand is in freefall? And the timing of this UK trip makes it all painfully obvious. King Charles is battling cancer. Insiders confirm his health is fragile, and whether the palace admits it or not, time is not on his side. Naturally, Charles longs to see his grandchildren. That's not surprising. What's shocking is the way Harry and Meghan appear to be leveraging that natural desire as emotional leverage. Desperate grandfather, sick and running out of time, longing for a connection. What better tool for Harry and Meghan to use when they're negotiating? Negotiating for what? Security, image rehabilitation, protection from bad press. Maybe all of the above, but what's certain is this: love had nothing to do with it. Think about it. If this was genuinely about healing wounds and reconnecting with family, Harry could have brought Meghan and the kids quietly. They could have flown in under the radar, slipped into Balmoral or Sandringham with no photographers, no headlines, no carefully planted quotes. But that's not what happened. Instead, Harry arrived solo, made sure the press tracked his every step, and staged his big finale at Clarence House. It was never about family. It was about performance. And the audience wasn't King Charles. It was you. It was the public. It was the corporations they're desperately trying to impress again. And it gets worse, because this wasn't some spontaneous drop-in on a sick father. No. Trips like this don't just materialize overnight. We're talking about weeks, maybe even months of planning. Publicists, press contacts, handlers. Every handshake, every camera angle, every leaked quote was coordinated. And if you don't believe that, ask yourself this. Why did the press immediately receive pre-packaged sound bites from Harry's team? Things like, he loved being back in the UK. He wants to rebuild. He regrets how things played out. That's not reconciliation talk. That's press release talk. And yet, behind the curtain, the cracks are glaring. William, the future king, wasn't even informed of the meeting until it was already underway. Sources say he was blindsided, completely in the dark. Charles didn't tell him. Why? Because he knew William would have opposed it. Because William, unlike Charles, isn't playing sentimental games anymore. He's seen too much damage, too much destruction, too much manipulation. And if you think William is ready to roll over and let Harry stroll back into the fold, think again. The exclusion of William isn't just bad communication. It's a flashing red warning sign. It's a fracture. It's a betrayal of trust. And let's be brutally honest here. The British public isn't stupid. They remember the Oprah interview. They remember the accusations of racism, the endless whining about neglect, the memoir that humiliated his own family. They remember Meghan comparing herself to a modern Diana, painting the UK as a toxic hellhole, trashing the very country Harry now claims he loves being back in. And we're supposed to believe that 4 days of photo ops and a 25-minute chat have erased all of that. Not buying it, not for a second. What we saw was a rebranding exercise. Strip Meghan out of the picture for a few days, roll Harry out as the dutiful son, feed the press sanitized quotes, and hope the public memory is short. It's not. This isn't redemption, it's desperation. And while the media wants you to see Charles as the noble father extending an olive branch, the reality is far less heartwarming. Charles is a man under immense pressure. His health is fragile, his reign is limited, and his legacy is hanging in the balance. He wants to be remembered as the king who held his family together, not the one who left it shattered. That desperation, that need to tie up loose ends before it's too late, is exactly what makes him vulnerable. Vulnerable to manipulation, vulnerable to Harry and Meghan's tactics, vulnerable to the exploitation of his own longing for his grandchildren. And that's what makes this whole saga so disturbing. Because while the press packages it as family healing, what's actually happening is far more sinister. Harry and Meghan are weaponizing sentiment. They're using children as leverage. They're feeding the press polished quotes. And they're doing it all while the king is too weak to see the danger clearly. Now, let's talk about Meghan. Notice how she stayed out of the UK trip entirely? That wasn't coincidence. That was strategy. By keeping her away, Harry could soak up the spotlight alone. He could be rebranded as the humble prodigal son, a son longing for his roots, a son rediscovering the UK he once abandoned. But make no mistake, Meghan was still running the show from behind the curtain. Every move Harry made had her fingerprints all over it. That's the Markle machine. It never sleeps. It just adapts. And here's the really tragic part. Charles seems to be falling for it. Whether out of guilt, out of fear, or simply out of love, he's opening doors that should stay closed. He's giving Harry access, giving him headlines, and in doing so, he risks weakening the monarchy even further. Because once you start negotiating with people who see family not as sacred but as useful, you lose control. Meanwhile, William and Catherine are once again left to steady the ship. They've been the calm hands, the stabilizers, the adult voices in this circus. But even they have limits. If Charles continues sidelining them, continues making desperate emotional decisions without them, the fractures will deepen. And the public sees it. They're not blind. They know William has carried the weight while Harry burned the bridges. They know Catherine has shouldered the scrutiny with dignity while Meghan played the victim. And they know that this so-called reunion wasn't real. It was scripted. The public's anger isn't about Harry meeting his father. It's about the way it's being framed, about the way the media expects everyone to forget years of betrayal, years of lies, years of accusations. You don't erase Oprah, Netflix, and Spare with a single 25-minute meeting. You don't rebuild trust with a few smiles and a sanitized soundbite. Trust doesn't work that way. But here's what does work: manipulation. And that's exactly what's happening. We're seeing Archie and Lilibet dangled like peace offerings. We're seeing Harry's image softened with carefully leaked quotes. We're seeing Charles's vulnerability used as leverage. And the monarchy, for all its centuries of power, is starting to look like it's being played like a pawn in a PR game. The irony? Harry and Meghan spent years waging war on the press. They called it racist, toxic, destructive. They sued it. They demonized it. And now, they're using it as their lifeline. The same tabloids they trashed are now their megaphone. Why? Because Charles himself reportedly leaned on top editors to soften the narrative, to make Harry look good, to protect the monarchy. But instead of protecting it, he may have just damaged it even more, because the British people aren't stupid. They remember. They're not going to let one carefully managed trip erase 6 years of chaos. And that's the real danger here. This wasn't a redemption arc. It was a stall tactic, a desperate play by a fading brand and a sick king, each with their own reasons for needing it. But the truth always leaks out. The leaks have already started. The insider whispers, the fractured family dynamics, the excluded William. The cracks are visible. The illusion is fading. So let me ask you, do you buy this glossy fairy tale of reconciliation? Or do you see it for what it is? A strategic, manipulative performance designed to tug at your emotions and rewrite a narrative that's already been burned into history. I